My name is Elf. I am lead artist at Emerald Tattoo in Lodi. I moved out here about 3 years ago, specifically to work for Emerald. I owned a shop in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was a small little two-man operation, but the problem with Charlotte is there's 200 tattoo shops in the city. That was just the city, not surrounding areas. So the market was just so flooded, it was just impossible to make a living. I always wanted to come back to California. It just always felt like home. All right, take a look and see if you like that placement.
That is sick.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I am happy with that.
This is my name, Elf. This is actually a marker box. A fan of mine in the comic industry made this for me. So there's 3 versions of where my name came from. I was a guitarist for a heavy metal band. I was really tiny and my guitar actually looked bigger than me. And someone made a joke about, hey, there's an elf playing guitar. And then the guys in the band started calling me Elf, and then my girlfriend started calling me Elf, and then I just kind of went with it. Okay, that's one version, which is total bull. Where the name actually came from was when I was 17 years old. I used to collect like rock and roll magazines. This is in the mid 80s. Rip magazine, Metal Edge, Rolling Stone, Circus. I think most of those magazines aren't even on the shelves anymore. But I was reading an article about Ronnie James Dio, and about how the first band he was ever in was called Elf. And I thought, oh, that would be a very cool name for someone, you know, as small as I am. And then about 2 years later, when I started painting, I kind of got out of the whole music thing and got into more visual, you know, doing this sort of thing. I sat down, I did my first painting and I signed it Elf, and I thought that's the greatest brush name I could possibly come up with.
Just like the inner house.
My wife and I have been together, we've been married for 29 years. Next October we'll be celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary. I used to be the cook.
Yeah, he knew how to cook, and I knew how to check the oil and change spark plugs.
I can check the oil, I just can't change it.
Well, I was raised by my dad. He was raised by his mom, his grandma, and all that. So I had the male influence, and he had the female influence.
That's why I pee sitting down to this day.
He was raised around nothing but women.
I thought that's how you did it.
Met him the day before I turned 19.
Yep, she knocked on my door. I thought it was this guy next door wanting to get high and watch movies, and I'm like, oh, Jeff, man, I don't want to deal with you right now because I'm drawing. I don't want to be bothered. And he knocked on the door, and I just let it go. And they knocked again, and I was like, if I don't answer the door, my stupid stepdad's gonna wake up, and it's gonna be my fault, and I just don't want to deal with it. So I went and answered the door, and it was these 2 girls that I knew that they were looking for someone to buy them wine coolers. And I already told them, don't come to me for that, because I get in trouble for that. And I opened the door, and I knew these 2 girls, but I hadn't never seen this one before. And long story short, I decided, okay, well, if I get to sit in the back seat with her, you know, I'm gonna go get some wine coolers. So I went and I got them some wine coolers, and then we got back to my apartment. I rolled a joint because I wanted to blow her a shotgun. That was the only reason I rolled the joint. So I rolled this joint, and so I gave everybody a shotgun. I saved her for last. And then the next day, I went to her birthday party, and that following weekend we had our first date,
Yeah, we're going on our first date the next week.
Then you moved in with me and my mom and my stepdad 2 weeks later.
3 weeks later.
3 weeks later, and we've been
His
together
mom
ever
actually
since.
is the one who invited me to come live with them. So.
Yeah. At first I was like, "Hey, Mom, what the hell are you doing? Shut up." No, I didn't say that. I had several shops approach me about doing an apprenticeship, and I had no interest. Until one day I was at a comic book convention, and there was I was starting to do work for this company in Atlanta called Tattoo Johnny. And their flash is, all over the place. Just about all tattoo. I don't see it much now, but used to. You couldn't walk into a shop without seeing their flash, and that's all they did was flash. So I started getting interested in what people were getting tattooed. So I'm at this convention, and this kid comes up to the table, and he's got this tattoo. I saw it, and I asked him to roll up his sleeve, let me see what he had, and he had this portrait of Ghost Rider, the Marvel Comics character, the skull and the flames, all that. I knew the painting that this came from. It came from a painting done by Boris Vallejo. And it was flawless. And I had seen Boris's work reproduced on skin before, but not like this. I mean, it was like they just took the painting and just stuck it on the skin. And after I saw that, I went, holy, look at this. I'm gonna get into this. And a year later, I wound up at the shop with the girl that did that tattoo. It was that one tattoo that kind of changed my mind. Because once I saw that, I realized, well, if you can do this in tattooing, then you can do anything. Then I'll be able to take my own work and transfer it over to skin. Yeah, I definitely like doing the new school stuff more than anything. I've gotten to do more of that here than I ever got to do back home. It was actually my mother-in-law that found Emerald Tattoo. And I sent my portfolio in. We got in touch with him. I sent my portfolio in, and Josh, Red, he had asked, can you fly out into a guest spot? And at the time, no, I couldn't afford to do that, but I made it happen anyway. And I flew out. I worked, I think I was here for about a week or 2 weeks, and I flew home. And honestly, I didn't think they were going to hire me because my tattooing just looked so bad at the time. I hadn't been properly taught. And then Red let me know that he wanted me to come back. A couple of weeks later, I flew back out here and worked for 2 or 3 weeks. And once the job was offered to me, I flew home, got my wife, my cats, all my stuff. We threw everything in a truck and drove 3,000 miles to get here. And here we are. I don't like you. You stink. Show everybody how ugly you are. Look at you. Ugly! Ugly!
Poor baby.
I'm currently working on a comic book series. I'm trying to get 12 issues done, so when I put the first one out, I'll always be a year ahead. Each issue has its own theme. The first issue is about zombies. And each issue has several stories, so it's not one story throughout the whole book, it's several little stories. So this is from the first issue. This is actually from the third issue, which third issue is about Ghost. I mainly did this mainly in blues, and I'm adding just a little bit of gray line, but then that's it. I'm not going to color this because I want this particular story, which is a 5-page story, I want it to be all in blues like this, because I want it to have a kind of a ghosty look. These are all games. This is Huntmaster. I just did all the artwork for this company. It's Monster Games. All my artwork is all over the cover. It's pretty cool. It's a card game, and I was hired to do all the artwork for this stuff. This is a company in North Carolina. I knew the guy he owns a comic book shop, and I used to buy from his shop, but yeah, it's all, they hired me to do all this artwork.
Like I can't take a day off. You guys just You juvenile.
Juvenile when you're here.
Yeah.
You're basically a 51-year-old child.
You are a 51-year-old toddler.
I was working in comic books way before I got into tattooing, but I liked European titles. I mean, Spider-Man and Batman and all that stuff. That stuff was great, but I liked stuff like Mr. Monster and ABC Warriors, Max Carnage, Maximum Force, Sharky, Judge Dredd. And to this day, I still collect Heavy Metal magazine. They came out with the movie in the 80s, the animated movie. It was always kind of a dream of mine to be, stop messing with it, always kind of a dream of mine to be in that magazine. And it's funny because we were doing a convention in Chicago, and I met Kevin Eastman, who is creator of the Ninja Turtles, and there for a short while he owned Heavy Metal. And I walked up, I started talking to him, and he offered me you know, 1 to 4 page story in the magazine, and I don't know what happened. I did the artwork and I got everything done. It's lettered, everything ready to go. And I don't know, for some reason I never sent it in for some odd reason. I think a lot of it was I was so stressed out all the time trying to figure out how to pay bills, and so I kind of let that slip through my fingers. The Max was my favorite book. I'm a huge Sam Keith fan. They used one of my Max paintings for the inside back cover. And that led to other things. I started getting tables at conventions. I started getting jobs to do other covers, and it kind of launched my comic career.
All she has to do is make them
Dude, I had this hole in my apartment all day today filming me. Oh, hey, man.
Did you? You know what you're supposed to. You know what I do when that happens? I just get naked. It's like, what's up, dude?
Damn, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, that's all you gotta do is strip down to your chonies.
Emerald's the 4th shop that I worked in, and is by far, when I came out here and checked it out, I was like, oh my God, I've never seen a tattoo shop like this. Because it's not a shop, man, it's a company. And it's the fact that they do financing, which I thought was a joke when my wife told me, oh, they do financing. I was like, you're crazy as hell, nobody does financing. And I looked on the website, I was like, oh my God, they do financing. Was really baffled how that worked, but man, the way Red does things is, I have no doubt, and I'm not kissing anybody's ass, but I have no doubt that Emerald will be the first tattoo company on the cover of Fortune 500 because of the way he does things. Man, they promote for us. They put a lot in advertising for us. They take care of us. It is by far the best place I've ever worked. In order for me to leave, Red would have to come into the shop with a gun and point it at me and go, get out. And I would go, nope, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be right back. I'm not going anywhere. So I started telling this one girl one time this story about this we lived in this trailer, and I come home from work one day and it just started to stink. It smelled like death. And every day I come home, it just got worse and worse and worse. And finally, it was just like, oh my God, what is this ungodly smell? So I went outside and I actually looked up under the trailer, and there were dead cats everywhere. And part of them looked like they had been eaten, like something had been dragging these cats up under my trailer and eating them. And late one night, I'm out on the porch. I smoked cigarettes at the time. I was smoking a cigarette, and I see my cat coming up over the hill, and so I'm starting to get worried. I'm starting to want to keep him indoors now. So I noticed that he's carrying something. He's carrying a rabbit or something, because he's always out killing stuff. So I go over to see what it is he's doing, and I realize he's got a cat that he's holding by the neck in his mouth, and he's dragging it down the hill. And the cat's dead. He watched him and he drug it under the trailer. So I got in touch with our vet. It was a mobile vet, and was telling him and showed him what was going on. And he told me, he goes, well, unfortunately, animals, they're a lot like humans. Some of them are just crazy. They do stuff. Unfortunately, you have a cat that is a serial killer. So I'm telling this girl this story, and she's just in horror as I'm telling this story. And as I get done with her tattoo, she goes, "Oh, are you done?" I'm like, "Yeah." And that story I told you about my cat, it was bullshit, but it kept her focused the whole time. She was so latched on to everything. I mean, and it took me like 45 minutes to tell this story, because I had to tell it kind of slow, and I had her going, but she didn't pay any attention to what she was really going through with this tattoo.